Welcome to Jude, the podcast. I am David Jude. I am your host for this show. And let's start off by just saying thank you to everyone who has been listening and downloading and sharing and giving us great feedback about the show. I just can't tell you how much that means to us. And it also means to our show sponsors. We're all just humbled and appreciated for all the help that we're getting from you. So thank you so much. By the way, speaking of sponsors, we're so excited to have added Ugly Tint into our show sponsors. Be sure to check out their links, and as well as Shameless Care and DPJ Consulting. They're what makes the show go round. So thank you to each of those two. Listen, I can't wait to tell you about this episode or share this episode that we have coming up for you. You know, there's times in life where you just meet special people or you find yourself in those special moments. And it's up to us to recognize that we're in that moment. And then do we hear and share and accept the things that those moments are teaching us? This episode's no different. I'm so excited to introduce a friend of ours, Mr. Glenn Lundy. An amazing person, just an amazing person, does so much for so many people, not just locally, but across the country and even across the world. His message here is, it's just unbelievable. I hope you listen to this episode, and I hope you come away with the same inspiration and motivation, not only to be a better person, but to also be a better person to others where we have those opportunities. Glenn is purely an example of that. So glad to call him a friend. So glad to have spent some time with him on our show, and so glad to continue a relationship and just take away those lessons that he has shared with us. It's a great opportunity for all of us to listen and learn. We'll have links for Glenn in our show notes as well as our show sponsors. We look forward to keeping this thing rolling. Anyway, enjoy the episode. Thank you again for everybody, and we'll see you soon. Good.
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're a busy man. It's nice to get a little bit of your time. So thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're close. And I'm glad it's not cold.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I'm not a big fan of the cold.
You hear that?
Yeah, they're really sensitive. The booms are super sensitive.
That was weird. Yeah. Well, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll leave it alone now.
You make yourself comfortable. It makes it authentic, as we
That's right.
as we always say.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about it, but man, how's the new office space? You moved out of where we are.
Correct.
And you moved into a big fancy new place. How's that going?
It's inspiring, right?
Yeah.
It's very inspiring to be in the space because right now we don't need that much space. We've 9,700 square feet, and we have 12 team members, I think is what we have now. And half of them don't work in office. They work in different places.
Yeah.
So, Nick's over in this far corner and Jessica's way over here and Brandon's over here, but they all have so much space, which is great.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it inspires us to fill the place. So here in 2024, we're looking at holding some in-person events, doing some stuff with the chamber, letting people use the space, to come in and hold their meetings and so on and so forth. Like we really want to get bodies and energy into the space now that we've been there about a year and we've got, we got it all set up the way we want. We have 5 sets in one of the studios. So I've got my main studio where I do the show. And then there's another studio, and in there we set it all up. So I've got couches and futons and, 5 different cameras, 18 different sets of lights, green screen setups. So any kind of content we ever want to shoot, we can just go in, flip a switch, and it's all set up. It's all there. So it's pretty cool, man. It just inspires us to think bigger and figure out how we can fill the space, right? Life's kind of like a vacuum, or business is kind of like a vacuum, I've learned. So the bigger you create, the more you fill.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to dig into some of that here in a little bit.
For sure, man.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I love studying what makes people successful and the journey of success,
right,
and those type of things. So to hear you talk about inspirational workspace, one, it's almost ironic or an oxymoron, it seems like anymore, where people are talking about,
sure,
reducing their workspace or, what is work today. So
right.
To hear you talk about those visions is pretty cool, man. So what led you to the visions of like the green screens and stuff? Is it your own content or are you envisioning something else?
Yeah, pretty much just our content, right? My team, so I've got a couple guys that do editing for us, and I listen, right? I listen. And so we'll do one shoot and then they'll be talking about it and I'll hear them say, oh man, it's hard to do a background on that because of whatever lighting, right? And so I'm like, ooh, if we would have filmed that in front of a green screen, it wouldn't be so hard on those guys. Or, I'll have people in office and we're trying to do something in the little studio and they're like, man, it would have been nice if we had like a couch set up, So whatever I hear them say from an editor's eye, I try to create so that they can be more efficient and just do their jobs and not have to deal with obstacles and barriers.
That's right.
That are going to slow them down. Right?
That's right.
I'm all about speed and ease for myself and for people that work with me.
Yeah. Speed and ease, man. With Glenn, I'm not sure that's factual.
Yeah. Man.
Well, it's speed. I don't know about the ease part. Speed, there's a lot of it.
Well, to me, it's
always
easy.
rolling.
I try to make everything easy. Like everything for me is, how can we make this so easy that a caveman can do it?
Yeah.
So I have systems and processes for everything. So my life can look complicated because there's a lot, right? 8 kids, show, company, employees, travel. There's all these things. But underneath, my morning routine, so on and so forth. But underneath it all, there's like little systems and processes that are so easy that sometimes I'm like, if people knew how easy some of this stuff was, they wouldn't pay me what they pay me. So I'm like, let's keep it looking a little crazy out here, but I know it's really easy. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we won't ask for the secret sauce today.
No, I'm kidding. But ease, man, like it just needs to be, things don't need to be as hard as we make them sometimes, I think.
I can reflect back on that from knowing you for a little while, right? And some of my early memories of you come from your time working at a local car dealership.
Yep.
Right. One of the largest in the country.
Now.
Yeah, now. That secret sauce is sitting right in front of me, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. We had an incredible buying experience, and I think that was under your tutelage there at that shop.
Yes, sir.
And it was never repeated again. As a matter of fact, I've never bought another car there.
Oh man.
And I'm not talking bad about it. I'm just saying the experience we had with my daughter's car was white glove, man. It was top shelf. It was awesome. And we still here I am reflecting back, and that's been 9 years ago or something, like 10 years ago or something like that. I have to go back and think how long ago that was that we purchased a car.
Yeah.
There.
2014, 2013. That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there anyway. But anyway, that's not what I was going to bring that up for. What I always reflect back on is the community service that you did when you were part of that dealership. There was always a promotion, always a giveaway, always something that you were providing back into the community. And that's what stood out to me was like, well, no doubt he's doing great because look at the dealership. I mean, you can't even look at a car online and literally drive 2 miles down the road and the car won't be there anymore.
No doubt.
Yeah. But that's not the impressive part. The impressive part was, what you were doing for people in the community.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So it was, I remember like just giveaways,
Yeah, we did that big Dan Cummins Deeds giveaway. That was my favorite one. We did 4 months where we just asked people to do good deeds.
That's right.
Certain ones, and take a picture of it, video of it, post about it, tag us, and then that put them in entries, and we gave away a car that year.
I forgot about that. You sure did.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thousands of people all around Kentucky out there doing good deeds, man. It was so cool.
That is cool. Is that a vision of yours?
if that was my vision, yeah, that was something that I put together. We'll probably do something like that again in the future. And now the way I'm looking at it is because now I work with hundreds of dealerships across the country. So I've had a few that have replicated and done a similar thing in their little areas, but I'd love to do one like nationwide campaign with 800% club dealers and set it all up for them. I think it'd be incredible.
Man, can you imagine what that response would be if you had that kind of response from one dealership in our state, which is a small state?
Right.
Can you imagine what the potential of that would look like, the probability or whatever the statistics number would look like for that?
The ripple effect. Incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to make that happen. This year, I partnered with an organization called the Azinga Foundation, and it is a group. So I met this guy named his American name is Richard. His real name is Sumunda, but he was an orphan growing up in Uganda. Over there, where he lives, they don't have clean water. They sleep on the floors, no lights, like. Third world country.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the parents die of AIDS and malaria and all sorts of other things. So there's all these kids out there that are orphaned, like super early age.
Yeah.
And so Richard was one of those guys, survived through that. Now him and his sister have created, it's Azinga, Asinga. But him and his sister have put together this thing now, and they have, that's probably it right there, Azinga Children's Foundation.
Yeah, Uganda.
Yeah, that's him.
Glenn Lundy piece there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we partnered with him over the last few years. He now has 70 orphans, 70 kids that he is helping make sure that they're not sleeping on the floor. Like we bought a bunch of beds, so they all have beds now. He places some of them in homes so that they have shelters. And most recently, we did a solar project with them.
Yeah.
And so we raised, as a community, it wasn't a ton. It was like $28,000 or something like that. And for $28,000, these guys were able to go out and put these solar panels on all these little shacks and huts and everything in the village and just give them light, bro.
Yeah.
They get light now, 8 hours a night. They have a light bulb. It's literally like a light bulb hanging from a little thing. But that light completely changes their entire existence, because normally as soon as the sun goes down, they're worried about snakes, spiders, like all the creepy crawlies that come out at night. And plus a lot of them are sleeping on the floor, So their whole lives is around like daylight, and then as soon as the lights go out, it's protect mode and fear. Imagine being a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid with no parents, no light. Like it's terrifying. So we were able to raise some money for them, and Richard went out and they installed these things themselves, which was incredible. And to see the kids' faces and the families and so on and so forth. So this is a foundation we've been working with over the last couple of years, and we're really going to pour into here in 2024. And then, maybe we'll look at doing another Dan Cummins Deeds type thing next year. That would be pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah. But I love doing stuff like this, man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. You have to feel good with it, right?
It's just great. It's like, it's a game changer. Yeah. And it doesn't take, it's not as hard as we think it is. Again, I like simple things.
Yeah.
Right? It's real simple. I'm like, what do we need next, Richard? He's like, dude, if we could give them light, they can study at night if they want to. They can feel safe. I'm like, light? We just got to give them some light. I'm like, what about water? Like, look at this kid. First time he ever sees a light bulb. I'm like, what about like water? He's like, we'll get to the water. That's a bigger project. He's like, they have water right now. It's not clean water, but they've got water. He goes, first we got to give them some light.
How about that?
Like, okay, cool, man.
And 28,000, that's a modest number.
Yeah.
When you think fundraising and obviously what he's been able to do with that's just such a modest number.
Crazy, right?
Crazy that he's able to accomplish everything he's accomplished with that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's incredible, man.
So, but yeah, I love doing those things, man.
What made you, to me, you're very successful, and we're going to talk about success here in a second. So, but what made you leave the dealership? I mean, for me looking at you, I was like, man, he's got to go on, man. This is awesome. And then the next day you're like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. No, for real. So I'd been there 8 years. We'd had a ridiculous amount of success. Still a lot of potential, a lot of room to grow. Over those 8 years, I took exactly 0 days off. We were closed on Sundays, so I had Sundays. But if the dealership was open, I spent time at the dealership. And my wife even had 5 or 6 kids over that period of time that I was there. I didn't even miss any time, like for the births of my children. Like my wife would have kids on Saturday nights or Tuesday nights because Wednesday was technically a day off and Sunday was a day off. And so she would have the baby. And I remember one night she had the baby at like 4 a.m. 4 hours later, I was at the office. She's at the hospital. She's good. And my wife's always been super supportive. So she's like, I'm surrounded by nurses by the way. Stuff. Yeah. Like, go feed these kids somehow, right?
Did you plan the birth to be on prior to the days off? Is that like scheduling, Lundy family scheduling?
She was just literally like, that's when she never was induced or anything. That's
she's just in tune to you.
Yeah, just in tune with our schedule because that's what it was. But I decided.
I don't know how you planned that, right? You're like, let's have another child. 9 months later, you're like, it's got to be on a Saturday night.
It just happened that way. It's amazing looking back. But so I worked a lot, and I loved every bit of it. I loved working with Josh Cummins, the owner over there. He became a best friend of mine. Him and I worked out together. Our families traveled together. Like, he was such an incredible mentor. He taught me so many things about myself and about life. I expected to be in that company and with Josh Cummins forever. Like, literally, that was my expectation. So fast forward, for the first time ever, I take 10 days off. And the reason I took 10 days is there was an event that we had put together, a speaking event called Hustle and Grind Con that was happening down in Orlando. And it was a 3-day event. I was speaking. Eric Thomas, who's also known as E.T., the hip hop preacher. He's like the number one motivational speaker in the world. You hear his voice in every Super Bowl. He was speaking, a bunch of people from automotive. It's just awesome, right? So I took some time off for that event. And then there was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that I was going to just stay home with my wife and my kids. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Southland Christian Church was having a men's Christian leadership conference. So I just bookended the time off and took 2 weekends off plus a week in between.
Right.
At the speaking event, it was just incredible, right? And when I was on stage, the lights, the crowd, the audience, it was amazing. Like, unbelievable. One of the most memorable experiences of my life. So then I get back from that and I spend 3 days with my wife and kids at home. And I was like, this is cool. Like,
this is what the other side's like.
This is fun. Like, wow, I like this, right? I can eat dinner at 5 o'clock and not out of the microwave. This is insane. So
who knew?
I didn't even know that was a thing because for 20 years I've been in auto and you eat out of a microwave at 9 p.m. at night. That's just how it works. So that was cool. Then I went to the Men's Christian Leadership Conference. Scott Nickel. So John Weiss and Scott Nickel are the pastors over there. Scott Nickel's on stage and he says, everyone has an image of a flannel graph Jesus. This is a Jesus that is carrying a sheep and he's smiling and all the kids are running behind him. He's like, everybody's got this image of Jesus. He goes, let me show you what Jesus really looked like. Goes into scriptures. Jesus is flipping tables, attacking the Pharisees. Like, he's relentless on this mission that he's on.
Tearing it up.
And he's going city to city. He's not waiting for people to come to him. He's going city to city to city to city. So Scott paints this picture of Jesus as like a warrior that is out on a mission to make an impact, right? So I'm like, wow, okay. Never looked at it that way. So I go back to work fired up, bro. I just had this amazing speaking thing. I'm on a mission to like go out and make a difference. I am on a mission to eradicate the negative stigmas associated with the car business. Like, we had our whole mantra that we said every single day. And I'm tuned up because I had spent some good time with my kids and my wife. Everything's great, man. I go to work Monday morning. I do a sales meeting that morning, get everybody jacked up. And then Dusty Cummins, which is Josh's brother, there's 2 owners over there. Dusty pulls me into his office. He says, I need to talk to you. I'm like, all right, cool. So he pulls me in there and we sit down and he says, Glenn, I don't like you. Now, what Dusty meant, he's not good with words. We don't ever let him talk to customers. What Dusty meant...
He's in the 52% club.
Yeah. What Dusty meant was, I don't like you having a morning show. I don't like you doing all this stuff on social media. I don't like that when I go to church on Sunday, everyone says Glenn's the face of the business. Like, he didn't like any of that. What he liked is for me to be focused on Dan Cummins and Dan Cummins only and do what I'm asked to do. And, you know, that's how he wanted it.
What a message.
Cool. I get it. Right. Yeah. So, but what he said was, I don't like you. It's not what he meant, but it's what he said.
Yeah. And
so as soon as he said that, my like brain shut down and it became like Charlie Brown, right? Like, wah, 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 wah. He was still talking, but I have no idea what he said.
Yeah.
And in that fog, call it a thought, call it whatever, I call it God, popped into my head and said, all right, Glenn, you have two choices.
Yeah.
Option one, stay right here. It's going to be amazing. You'll have the house, the white picket fence. You'll make all kinds of money. Because, I mean, I was making big money back then.
Right.
You'll have all kinds of money. You'll have the house. You'll have the white picket fence. Your wife will be healthy. Your kids will be healthy. Like, just stay right here, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and it'll be great. Or follow me, and let's see how far we can go. Those are my two options.
Yeah.
And so I sat there while Dusty was talking. And when he finished talking, without ever having thought I would leave that place, I just looked at Dusty and I said, I think that this season is over. And I am so incredibly grateful for the last 8 years and everything that we did together. And I thanked him. And he was like, What? Wait, you're quitting? Like, what is going on? What are you talking about? Like, jaw hit the ground, you know? And,
I love you. I love you.
Yeah, like, you know, and he was like, well, and I just sat there in this crazy, peaceful place and just waited for him to finish, super respectful.
Sure.
And just kept repeating the same thing, you know. I think this season's over. I'm so grateful for the time that we had together.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. And,
how do you make a decision that fast? For me, oh my gosh, that'd be like a month long.
If I wouldn't have made
so many meetings with
right
people
then,
like, for the love of God, please just decide something.
Well, and that's the thing is, if I wouldn't have made the decision right then, I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? And
sure.
I knew that, and that's what God put on my heart was like, follow me. Let's see how far we can go, or stay. But you got to decide right now. Like he put that. I felt pressure.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't. The way that I walked out of the room would have been my decision. Does that make sense?
It does.
If I walked out in that moment, then that I would have basically been saying, I'm going to stay here for another 10, 15, 20 years, and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. That's a great point.
So it was a very time-sensitive moment.
It's one of those moments of time that just present themselves to you from time to time.
It was either do it or don't.
And you got to recognize it.
Yeah, so I took the leap and then jumped in, left and started driving home and was like, holy crap, what did I just do? My wife's 9.5 months pregnant with her 6th child.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm the only income. What the hell am I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? So I was terrified to tell my wife. So I get home. It's like 9:45 a.m. She hadn't.
I'm scared for you at this moment.
Bro, I just took 10 days off. Prior to that, 8 years, no days off. My wife didn't expect to see me for a year because I just took 10 days off. She was like, all right, Glenn's going on another streak. Like, I won't see this guy forever. I come home a couple hours later, right? And so I pull in.
Hey, baby.
Yeah, she's in the garage. I open the garage. She happens to be in there grabbing an Ale-8, right?
Yeah,
Paris, Kentucky. And she's like, big, bro, like ready to pop any second. And she says, what are you doing here? I said, honey, I quit my job. And she looked at me and she goes, are you serious?
She shut the garage door.
I said, I'm serious. And kid you not, David, her smile She smiled ear to ear. Bigger than she smiled at our wedding, bigger than she smiled at any of our kids.
Sure.
She smiled ear to ear, which gave me confirmation that this was the right thing. But what I didn't know is how much pressure I had been putting on my wife. She never complained. She never said you work too much. She never said you need to get home earlier. Never in the 8 years that I was there. But we had stacked up kids.
Yeah.
She was homeschooling. Like, she was carrying it all and not sharing with me how much pressure it was. So when I told her that, dude, she was like so relieved and so grateful. So 2 days later, that was on Monday. So the very next day, I'm sitting there like, well, first Josh calls me, the owner from the dealership. Yeah. What the hell's going on, Glenn? Because him and I are best friends.
Right.
What's going on, man? I'm like, I tell him what happened. He's like, bro, it's just Dusty. Like, you've been working with Dusty for 8 years. Like, why all of a sudden today? I'm like, I don't know, dude, but this is what God is telling me. He's like, just take the day, relax, chill out, come back tomorrow. We'll talk about it. I'm like, okay. So I went and I sat at the church for like 3 hours, prayed about it, so on and so forth. Next day, went in, talked to Josh. Him and I talked for 3 hours. We cried. Like, it was emotional like crazy. And then I snuck out the back door because I didn't want to be a disruption to the team or anything like that. So fast forward, I'm sitting at the house and my wife's like, so, you know, what's the plan?
Honeymoon's over, honey.
Yeah. Like, what's the plan? I'm like, I ain't got a plan. I said, but there's an event happening in Las Vegas right now, National Automobile Dealer Association, and there's 30,000 car people there. I probably need to go there just to be in the room to see what opportunities there might be. I don't know, because I had no plan. I had no plan at all. And my wife's like, yeah, go. Now, I want you to put this all together real quick. I'm 40 years old.
Right.
I just quit my job. And now I'm running off to Vegas while my wife's 9.5 months pregnant.
Drinking her LA.
Yeah, drinking her LA. So everyone on the outside thinks I've lost it. It's the midlife crisis. Right. I'm a lunatic. Like, it was nuts, man. But my wife was just like, go, you're good. And so I went to Vegas. And when I got to Vegas, I was just around car people. And interestingly enough, because I walked out the back door not trying to be a disruption, well, the rumor mill just went crazy.
Sure.
Oh, he was embezzling money. He was on drugs. Everybody had a story, because the only story that didn't make sense was for Glenn to quit.
Right.
That made no sense. I was at the top of my game. I was the face of the dealership. I was making more money than I could ever possibly imagine. I had free reign. Like, it was my store. It was my culture. I had hired everybody in there, and I bled Dan Cummins Blues. So the only thing that didn't make sense is Glenn quit. Anything else was on the table. Right. And so my wife, who was super happy, now I'm in Vegas, she calls me Wednesday and she's crying. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, dude, people are messaging me. There's all these rumors. People are saying this, that, da, da, da. I said, okay, honey, I'll take care of this. No problem. So I went, took a shower, put on my suit, put on my tie, and I went onto Facebook and I put, I quit. Here's why. And I went live. And within seconds, there was like 10,000 people on this live. And I shared from my heart. I cried like a freaking baby.
Yeah.
And just let everybody know how much I love Josh and Dusty and the opportunity, but this is what God was calling me to do. And as soon as I got done with that live, I mean, my phone was blowing up.
No doubt.
It was insane. And I was at this NADA event, so people were grabbing me everywhere and job offers and all this stuff. And that's when I knew, like, I didn't leave there to go into another dealership. God said he had a different plan, so we'll explore that.
How about
so
that?
I know that's a long answer, but there's a lot in there that I wanted to.
Oh my gosh, man, we could talk for hours just on.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
On your leaving experience. Well, let me back up for a second. How did you get on that first stage in Florida? And so in your story, like, I had a speaking event that was at your event.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
it was our event. We built it. So I had been doing the Rise and Grind show since January. So I had my Rise and Grind community.
Okay.
And then my buddy Sean Hayes was doing lives every day. He was in the auto industry. His community was called So mine was Rise and Grind, and his was Hustle something. But we ended up putting them together, and we called it Hustle and Grind Con. And it was a combination of his community and my community.
Gotcha.
And we decided to have the first of its kind automotive event that invited everyone in automotive, from salespeople to owners and everyone in between. So we put it together. It was an idea we were in a hot tub in Vegas at a terrible conference, and we were like, dude, these conferences suck. We should throw our own. So we just decided to throw our own, and that's what we did. So we had about 400 people show up for that particular event, and big name speakers, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it really come from, you had your Rise and Grind already going at this particular point.
Yeah, we had the community around that for 10 months at that point. I had been doing the Rise and Grind show.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the show originally, the point of the show was, there was multiple reasons, but one, I wanted to create a space of motivation, education, inspiration, bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great. That was one thing. But also, it was the greatest marketing and promotion for the car dealership humanly possible. Are you kidding me? This live, energetic guy in the morning talking about motivational stuff, and I'd slide in commercials, right? Dan Cummins, Chevrolet, let me tell you one more time exactly how I feel. I'd rather go to Paris for a Dan Cummins deal, right?
Yeah.
So I would run those little ads. I interviewed Josh Cummins on there. Like, it was incredible marketing for the dealership, and that was half of the intention behind it. Was let's bring more attention to, who we are as humans in this car dealership world. And so that had been going for 10 months, and we had a lot of people from automotive that watched that particular show. So we were able to leverage that audience into a live event.
So by this point, had Dan Cummins already become the national leader, one of the top 10 or whatever?
Yeah, we were number 2 in the country.
Number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the industry is looking at Dan Cummins like, what in the world's going on over there in Paris?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm live streaming Saturday morning sales meetings. I'm live in the mornings. I'm like, look at us. Because, people are like, oh, they must be cheating, lying, stealing.
Right.
There's got to be a reason. It's like, nah, man, we're completely transparent. Look behind you can come join us. And what a recruiting tool. I had people flying from all over the United States to come work for us. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So off you go. You're out the door, and you got this plan, and
no plan, but out the door.
Yeah. Well, eventually,
literally no plan.
So, you're Glenn Lundy. What brought you to the point of saying that's going to be my brand? That's what I'm going to do. How did you get to that place? We are so glad to have Ugly Tint as a sponsor to the show. My longtime friend Kenny Dietrich is a subject matter expert in modern survival, bushcrafting, and preparedness. As he challenges us on the show, be prepared for the disaster most likely to happen to you. But let me tell you, Ugly Tint is so much more than just disaster preparedness. You need to check out the website at uglytent.com. That's UGLYTENT.com for a complete list of their products, their classes, and all the services that Kenny offers. There's a lot that I think you'll find interesting at uglytent.com. Again, just a neat place to go. So whether it's for camping, maybe it's a hike, maybe it's just trying to be in the outdoors for a little bit, uglytent.com is filled with the products and the services that you want. Not to mention you have a true expert as a resource for you. Listen, while you're there, use the promo code JUDE, that's lowercase JUDE, and that code will get you 10% off your total purchase. That's a pretty good deal for some really cool stuff. Anyway, check out Kenny at uglytent.com.
I think that while I was at Dan Cummins, it sometimes created a little bit of a rift, because I was doing the show, Saturday morning sales meetings, and I started to notice, and Dusty and some, the owners started to notice that there was a lot of people associating the business with me. And because they like me, they'd come work there, or they'd come, like, it was a good thing. That was a good association.
Mm-hmm.
And so after leaving there, I'm like, if people like me and they'll do business with me at Dan Cummins because they like me, maybe they'll do business with me in my business because they like me. Right. So it just made sense to continue to elevate and build the personal brand, because people like to buy from people, especially in today's day and age. Faceless brands, nameless brands. It's just a different world now than it used to be. Nameless brands and faceless brands like Kmart, Radio Shack, Blockbuster, like, they're all gone. Or on their way out in one way, shape, or form. Whereas you see, when you think Apple, you think Steve Jobs, or when you see Microsoft, you think Bill Gates. Like, there's people associated with these big brands, and something about that gives them more endurance, knowing that there's a person behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good point on Radio Shack. Kmart, I can see, right? Competition can drive them out, and there's a whole bunch of competition for Kmart. And I was a Shack nerd for a little bit. One of my favorite jobs I had, because I had a really motivated manager. Right. And, my previous job was law enforcement, and people say, what prepared you for law enforcement? I was like, I'll tell you what it was. It was selling shoes. I was Al Bundy at a shoe store. Nice. And I was a Radio Shack nerd, trying to sell extended warranties and little tiny, knickknacks that Radio Shack had, giving away free batteries. Right. And I said, but in both of those, I had really motivated managers, and there's not one person that could walk in that front door. If you didn't say hello to them and greet them appropriately and engage in a conversation, you were in trouble. Sure. Right. And I said, that's what prepared me for law enforcement, because I learned how to talk to people and to build relationships with people. Anyway, to the point with Radio Shack, it's kind of surprising. You're right. I think it's Roy Tandy, if I remember right. Tandy Leather is where Radio Shack started. But Radio Shack is still, that's who you think of for pieces and parts and stuff that you need, these knickknacks and trinkets, and let's build something today. Right. You think of Radio Shack. Right. But they didn't make it. That's right. It's to me, Radio Shack's a fascinating story. It's funny you said that. But didn't have a name person with them.
Didn't have a name. Yeah. Look at BlackBerry. BlackBerry had it. They had it. They had it. And they had it made. They had the majority of the people. They had the market share. They had all of that. Right. But they didn't have a dynamic face associated with the brand like Apple did when
that's a great point,
when Apple came out. Even big companies like Nike and Adidas, you might not think of the original founder of Nike, but Nike is associated with LeBron James, all of these athletes and whatnot, that there's humans attached to the brand, which keeps it going, right? Yeah. Kobe Bryant for Adidas and so on and so forth. Yeah. So any major company, not any, there's some, right? Sure. But it just seems like longevity is more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a better chance of longevity of a company when it's associated with a face in today's day and age. Not necessarily the case 20 years ago. Right. But now that is truly the case. People want to know who's behind these things.
Yeah. Before we get into your services and your brands, let me ask this about Glenn Lundy, the brand.
Sure.
Because I always hope that this show reaches somebody that's trying to figure out what to do next, whatever our topics are, and our topics vary, right?
Right.
And I also know you as a very humble person, a lot of humility to you and to your life and to how you approach stuff. And I think there's a fine line here, and I struggle with this. I think there's a fine line here between managing that humbleness and humility versus recognizing, let's do it as Glenn Lundy, the brand.
Sure.
Where did you recognize? What was that process of recognizing, I am that brand? Let's do it. That's a heavy question, right? Because, at least to me, because it feels like you got to let go of some of that humility to say, I'm going to be the brand. I'm the one that did this. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, it is hard. It's challenging. And over the last few years, we've really had to explore a lot of that. And I've had to personally explore a lot of that. We have, if you look online, you'll find a rise and grind Instagram page, a Rise and Grind TikTok page, a Rise and Grind Facebook page. You'll also find an 800% Elite Auto Facebook page, Instagram page, TikTok page. Then you'll find the Glenn Lundy Facebook page, TikTok page, Instagram page. You'll see the Glenn Lundy business page, TikTok page, Instagram page. You'll see all of these things and many iterations in between, Breakfast with Champions pages, so on and so forth. Because I was like, I don't want to necessarily be, I understand I'm a spokesperson for the brand, but I don't know if I want to be the brand, right? Like, what if something happens to me? The brand needs to be able to continue on, so on and so forth. And just what I've discovered is nobody cares about the Rise and Grind Facebook page. Nobody cares about the 800% Club Instagram page. Nobody cares about the BWC TikTok page. They follow Glenn Lundy's page because people want to connect with people. And if I want to serve people through my company, right? If I want to expand and be able to serve people, then I need to get over whatever this little thing is that says, oh no, it should be somebody else's name on there. I can't serve. People can't find me if I'm not the brand. And if they don't find me, I can't serve them. Does that make sense?
Man, that makes perfect sense. You couldn't have said that any better.
Yeah. And I think about, I know I probably referred to, God and that kind of stuff maybe too much sometimes, but when I look at Jesus, I think Jesus is the most successful human to ever walk the planet, right? Biggest impact. Everybody knows the story. Everybody knows his name. He's the brand. Jesus was the brand, right? And he was humble and he was a servant and he was all of those things. And he made sure people know, like, here's who I am, right? Yeah. And my name is Jesus, Jesus. Write it down. Follow me.
The OG branding.
Right. Yeah. Follow me and I will lead you to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this. It's not that he was an egomaniac. It's that he was so passionate about serving people. And he knew he went city to city to city to city and and shouted his name from the rooftop so people could find him. He needed people, there were people that were begging like, hey, I need help.
That was the social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Other people to.
And so I feel like it's important that, there's some people that need to find you.
Yeah.
They need your service. They need however you can help them, but they can't find you if you're buried under 8 layers of different names and titles and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh man. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. I'll just say it. I needed to hear that. So that was awesome to hear that. So yeah, I guess because I followed your story for a little bit. So I look and I think Rise and Grind and I think 800% Club. Are those brands under Glenn Lundy or how are you packaging that today? Yeah.
So it's still, that's the name of the show and that's the name of the club. And 800% is how we live.
Yeah.
So those things still exist, but they exist under
a bigger umbrella.
Glenn Lundy umbrella.
Yeah, I got you.
Another good example too is, Grant Cardone.
Oh yeah.
Grant Cardone's become a good friend of mine over the years. I've known him since 1999, but we became good friends in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Nice.
And if you look, with him, he's built a powerful brand, really powerful brand, millions of followers, $5.4 billion net worth. Like, he's killing it in business. He's serving a lot of people. He's raising a lot of money for different foundations. Like, he's doing a lot of things that I would want to do. And if you look, everything is grantcardone.com/ grantcardone.com / Cardone Capital, grantcardone.com / book / workshop / event / whatever, but it's always grantcardone.com, so that the people that need his help can find him. Now, maybe they need a book, maybe they need a course, maybe they need a workshop, maybe they need to go to an event, maybe they need real estate. Those things all differ. But if he's trying to create brands for each of those things,
yeah, you get lost pretty quick.
You just get lost in it. Whereas it's like, okay, I'm going to go to grantcardone.com and then I can find.
It's like a forest for the trees type of
setup here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's like a forest for the trees.
That's right.
You can't see the rest of it.
Can't see it.
So you don't know how to
Make
find
it easy, simplify it,
Yeah, that's
streamline it, right? Just one path. It's easy. You go to glennlundy.com. If you're an auto, click the auto button. If you want to see the morning show, go to the morning show. If you want me to speak at your event, click on the speak at the event. There's going to be another button over here that's going to say, buy the book. If you want to buy the book, you'll be able to do that. But it's all,
It's all right there.
all right there. Easy.
How do you define success? What's success to you?
The constant pursuit of purpose, joy, and multi-generational impact.
So you're thinking about hiring a private investigator, huh? Think knowledge, experience, and trust. Think DPJ Consulting. Listen, we're the folks you want on your team. Whether it's a criminal matter, corporate, or administrative issue, or maybe something more personal, you need to make the right choice for you. Our house of expertise at DPJ Consulting can help you with investigations, and that can mean a whole lot of different things. Pre-employment background checks, personal VIP security, and so much more. Check us out at dpjconsulting.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, or give us a call at 855-TEAM-DPJ. That's 855-TEAM-DPJ. Give us a call. It costs nothing to talk. It costs you everything if we don't. Yeah, that's a great one there at the end, right? That lasting legacy.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as I get older and wiser, more gray hair,
Sure.
I start thinking about, it's not so much about me anymore.
Right.
What am I doing for, my daughter, my grandkids, and these other things? What am I doing to make a legacy beyond here? Where I feel like on the first part of my career is, build, or yourself, but
Right.
the older I get, so that's a great way to.
Yeah, there's a book called The Second Mountain. If you get a chance, check it out. Talked about how, in society, we grow up and then we go to school and then we're told to, kind of go do this. And then we make a decision at 18, 19, 20 years old. This is what I'm going to do, right? For work. And so the 20-year-old naive version of yourself is now deciding what you're going to do for the rest of your life, right? And so you've let that person make a decision and then you roll in that. And a lot of us spend 10, 20 years in that decision made by that 20-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get to kind of the top of that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever we choose to be a teacher, we kind of get to the top of that. We choose to be a police officer, we get to the top of that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why they call it midlife crisis is how it's labeled. I believe it's a midlife awakening. So you get to be around, you're 40 years old, something you've been doing something for 15, 20 years, and you start to wake up and go, oh, wait a minute, hold up. That kid chose this 20 years ago, but I'm not that kid anymore.
Right.
And I appreciate the last 20 years, and they've served me and the experiences and the wisdom and so on and so forth. But it's not just about making a couple bucks and putting food on the table. Like there's more to this thing called life.
Yeah.
So then we start to explore that, right? What does that look like? And so the second mountain talks about you reaching that kind of peak. And then you have two choices. You can build a bridge. When you get to the peak, you see there's another peak, right? And so you can either build a bridge from the peak that you're on now that connects you to the peak that you want to chase with the second half of your life, or you can go back down to the valley, abandon what you were doing before, walk across the valley and start at the bottom and climb up a new mountain, right? So it's a really cool book, a really good way of looking at this thing called life. But I remember Eric Thomas, who we talked about earlier, at that event. Actually, he was on the stage and he said, "You think you're doing something because you're putting food on the table for your kids, and taking care of your spouse and putting a roof over their head." He goes, "That's just what you're supposed to do. That's minimum. Like, that's baseline. You're not doing nothing. you're doing something when you put food on 100 families' tables.
Yeah.
Now you're doing something, put a roof over 100 families' head. Like now you're making, an impact. And then he refers to some, there's Bible verses that talk about 3 generations of impact. Like our life is supposed to be lived in a way that we impact this generation, the generation that comes after us, and the generation that comes after them. And when you start thinking on those layers, you're like, holy smokes, dude, like I gotta.
Yeah. Pretty deep.
That's why that's where speed and all that comes in. I'm like, I only have so many years to create a tri-generational impact, right? If I so choose. Some people are like, nah, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm just going to live my life and do my thing. And that's totally cool. Like,
yeah.
But that's not how I'm layered.
Yeah.
Like, I want a line 2.5 miles long at my funeral. I want a line 2.5 miles long. And I want my kids, which is another line about a mile long. I got a bunch of kids. But I want my kids lined up. I want Dad's little coffin right here, right? Yeah. Whether I'm in it or not really doesn't matter. But right. I want Dad's little coffin right here. I want all the kids. Hopefully they're all older because it's a long time from now.
That's right.
But I want all the kids right here lined up. And then I want a line of people 2.5 miles long. And I want that line of people 2.5 miles long. I want them to go through and each one of them to say to my kids, your dad made an impact in my life in this way.
What a testament that would be.
That's what I'm shooting for, man.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I was going with, so we talked about success being this pursuit.
Yes.
Can you achieve success? Will you see the success that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think you can definitely achieve many successes in life. I don't think there's any finish line to that, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Achieve, great, celebrate, next. Achieve, great, celebrate, next. I refer to it often as like always grateful but never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief as of right now. Now, this is 46-year-old Glenn Lundy. And just like 20-year-old Glenn Lundy didn't know what the hell he was talking about. When I'm 70, I might look back and say 46-year-old Glenn Lundy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
No idea what he's talking
I'm
about.
Good right here. I'm 70. I'm sitting on the boat. We're doing some deep sea fishing, and I have zero desire to chase anything else. That might be what 70-year-old me decides.
Yeah.
But 46-year-old me has a belief that, there's no finish line on this thing. And however many minutes I get, however many days, however many weeks, however many months, however many years, I'm going to continue to pursue successes, things to celebrate, reasons to be excited, joy, purpose, those types of things.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, that the 20-year-old picking out a career,
Oh, yeah.
Same. I'm sitting right here in front of you.
No doubt.
Same thing.
We all went through the same system.
Sure we have. The peaks and valleys, right? And in a previous career, thought I had it.
Right.
I was on not the top of the peak, but at the top of the peak,
Sure.
Awesome. And next day, kind of very similar, like, no, it's time to move on.
That's right.
And go do some other stuff. And I had some peaks and valleys, right? And so, you look back on, it's like, I thought I was doing pretty good before, today. And anyway, I would kind of share that with you.
There's so many versions of us.
Yeah.
And I try to think about the different versions of us often. So I'll give you a couple examples on it on either side.
Mm-hmm.
There's an 80-year-old version of me, God willing. There's an 80-year-old version of me. That guy doesn't get to choose what his life looks like. He has zero say in what life is. Now, he could choose what life is going to look like for him at 90. I'm not saying he's done, but at 80, on that guy's 80th birthday, whatever his life looks like at 80 is what it's going to look like at 80.
Yeah.
I'm the one who gets to really choose.
Yeah.
46-year-old me gets to choose what 80-year-old guy's life looks like.
Yeah.
And I want 80-year-old guy to look back and go, thank you. Thank you so much, 46-year-old Glenn, for the decisions that you made back then. Because now my back hurts a little bit. My arms aren't quite what they used to be.
Right.
I can't pull the days and the nights that you used to. So thank you for doing that then, because I'm not in a position to do that now. Right.
Yeah.
So I think about him all the time. But then I also think about the 20-year-old me or the younger version of me. Whenever I have a belief, any type of belief, right? If I react a certain way, if I judge, if I make an assumption, any of those things, I'll think back and go, okay, is this true, or is this something that 20-year-old Glenn instilled, right? Or maybe a teacher in high school taught me, or someone when I was in middle school or when I was a kid, right? Mrs. Sage, when I was in kindergarten, told me, do not put salt on your food. It'll kill you. I'm 46 years old. I still don't put salt on my food because she told me that when I was 5 years old, right? We have these moments,
right,
that we believe, and we take these in as reality. And then fast forward many years later, some of those beliefs may be limiting us or keeping us from, hey, we never talk about money. My parents, we never talk money. Don't ask anybody about money. Don't ever talk about money. They never shared their bank accounts. They never talked about anything like that, right? So I had that belief. We just don't talk about money. That's just not what we do. You don't ever talk about money. Now I'm like, that's the dumbest crap ever. How are my kids supposed to learn about money so they're not idiots like I was with my money if I don't talk to them about money? So I talk to my kids all the time about money. Like they have their own money. We have those conversations. Nothing's off the table. They're like, Dad, are we rich? I'm like, I don't know. What's rich? Yeah. What do you think rich is? They're like, well, how much money you got? I'm like, I got this much. Do you think that's rich? They're like, oh shit. Yeah, that's pretty rich.
That's a lot. That's a lot of rich, Dad.
Right? But those are the conversations we have. And so it's this constant thing with me. 80-year-old me, let's make good decisions for him. And then when we're making decisions, let's make sure that we're not making them because 20-year-old me thought that was the best thing. Like, let's make sure 46-year-old Glenn is seeing the world as it is for 46-year-old Glenn, not as was projected by past versions of me.
Love it, man. Oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense and a great perspective. And I don't know that I've ever heard anyone put it in those type of terms to think about, the 80-year-old David, and that I'm actually choosing what that looks like. I've always thought about 80-year-old David,
sure,
but I've not really put the weight into it that 53-year-old David is making those decisions. That's a great perspective. I want to cover a couple other topics before we run out of time.
Sure. Where are we at? We're good.
Yeah, we got another 10, 15 minutes, something like that. If we want to finish up early enough for you.
Yeah, she said I have to be home at 5:10. So we're good. We're good.
We will not be responsible for 5:11. Yeah.
When you have kids the way I have kids, like everything's to the minute.
We're going to make sure that you own 5:10.
Yeah, 5:10. So we're good.
All right. Good. Let's talk about two things I'm interested in is your live events.
Yeah.
Let's talk, a little bit about what 2024 looks like for your live events. But before you get there, you touched on it a little bit ago because you had the Rise and Grind community and you started this thing. I remember you doing something in Paris at one particular time.
Yeah.
Was that on the beginning or where was that at?
Yeah, very beginning.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I made that assumption.
Still at Dan Cummins.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Right. Tell me about the events. Tell me the vision of creating the events and what you're doing with them.
Yeah. So my entire life, I realized my entire life that I have been put on this earth to bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great. Like since I was a kid, man, when I was in kindergarten, I would go to the third grade class. I was a really good reader. And so I would go to the third grade class and the teachers would bring the third graders together and I would read to them, right? So bringing kids together, I would equip them with the tools they need to succeed. I would teach them how to read and inspire them to go do it because I was 5 and they were 8. Right.
Yeah.
And so, talent show, I can go fast forward, talent show. In middle school, I did the same thing. Bring people together. Let's equip them with the tools they need to succeed, inspire them to be great. So it's just something that I've always done. So the events, kind of evolved from that. How can I bring people together, equip them with tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great? As I did the show and started stepping into bigger and bigger rooms, learning more tools and meeting more people, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's do some sort of live event that'll bring people together. Let's get some great speakers that can equip them with what they need, and then we'll inspire them to go out and do great things. And that's literally like the Rise and Grind event in Paris, Kentucky. We had this community. I'm like, oh, they want to get together in person. People kept saying, we got to get together in person. We got to get together in person. I'm like, let's get them together in person. So I said, I got an idea. We'll just shut down City Hall. Like, we'll shut down the streets in front of City Hall. We'll do an event right there on the steps of the courthouse.
Yeah.
And so I called my friend Danelle Delgado, said, hey, will you be there? Called another guy of mine, Eddie. Hey, will you be there? He said, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Josh Cummins, will you come speak? Sure. Kelsey Malacote, will you come speak? Yeah, I can do that. So I got a lineup of people, and I'm like, all right, cool. So now I got a lineup. We should probably like sell some tickets or something. That'd probably be cool. So then I started selling tickets. I started selling tickets to it, however much it was. I don't remember. It's a cheap event. So started selling tickets to the event, so on and so forth. Got flyers. We're the courthouse. We're going to do it on the steps. It's going to be amazing. Da, 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 da. And then the city calls me and they're like, yo, bro, we just saw a flyer that you're doing an event on the courthouse steps. Like, you don't have approval to do any type of event on the courthouse step. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I figured we get there. Like, at some point, I had to make sure I had an event first. Like, if nobody buys any tickets, then I don't need an approval.
Yeah, I don't need the permit.
They're like, no. You got to get a permit first. Then you go sell tickets. I'm like, that's not the way I roll, bro.
They want their $25.
Yeah,
Glenn.
I'm like, no. So they're like, well, you just can't do that. Like, you got to shut down the city. There's police involved. You have to have a certain amount of trash receptacles. You have to do all this stuff. I'm like, cool. So who do I got to talk to do it?
Yeah.
They're like, dude, you have to go and propose it to the board and all these people, city council and so on and so forth. I'm like, great.
I'll be there Tuesday night. Let's do it.
When are they there? Yeah. So I find out when they're there and I walk in, and I kid you not, as soon as I walk into that room, a guy goes, hey, rise and grind, Glenn Lundy. Watch my show. Like, the council members, half of them watch the show. I'm like, I got this. So I go stand in front of the thing and I paint a picture, bro. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. People are going to come from all these states. They're going to spend money in downtown. We're going to have this stage, a huge stage and lights. And I'm going to have these speakers and people will be inspired. We'll be down there all day long. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Who's in? And they were like, what do they have to do? I second the I put a motion to allow Glenn to do this. And someone else is like, I second the motion. And the one person who had called me from the city is like, this asshole, man, this guy, who does he think he is? So
how did it get to you all before this?
So then I got approval and then I was like, well, we need a stage. So then I called some dude and we spent $50,000.
Yeah, it's a big stage big scaffolding and everything.
And I didn't have $50,000, but I was like, all right, cool. Let's, we'll figure it out. So then we sold some tickets, and then I still didn't have $50,000 to pay for the stage and lights. We paid for half of it. And so then I was like, oh, we should probably get a couple sponsors, because somebody's got to pay this stage guy.
Still got to pay him.
Right. So Erin Hunt Ferguson from Hunt Brothers, she sponsored the event, which was she watched my show, Rise and Grind, all the time. So I knew she was already familiar with who I was. And Josh Cummins contributed from Dan Cummins. They contributed, and we got it paid for, man. And
got it done.
We had an event, and it was cool. And I flew in on a helicopter for my intro. It was awesome.
Oh, did you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I flew right in.
Of course, as you should.
Yeah, golly, why did I just blank on his name? They own the funeral. Thomas Ware owns the funeral homes out there. So I called him. I'm like, Thomas, man, fly me in on a helicopter, bro. It'll be awesome. He's like, yeah. So, and we just did it. And it was an incredible event.
Where'd you land at?
Right next to the courthouse.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, on the street, because the streets were blocked off.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess there's enough room there to land. Yeah. Those guys can do cool things with helicopters.
Cool things. So I landed right there, and I ran right up on stage.
Did you time it right with your intro?
Oh, yeah. It was perfect. I was live up in the helicopter. Oh, we're going live. So people knew I was coming. It was so cool, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. A lot of relationships came out of that.
No doubt.
Event.
No doubt. So listening to you, I hear, I called my friend, I did this, and I have these people in my network.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
How did you get that network to the point that you could say?
A lot through the show, but then also through, Dan Cummins selling people cards and so on and so forth. That whole time I was at Dan Cummins, like, I was on social like crazy, man. Like,
all the time,
posting all the time.
But what would your advice be to the listener here, saying, I'm not Glenn Lundy, and I don't have the gift that he has. I think you truly have a gift, but
thanks.
They have a gift in their own world.
No doubt.
Right. And what I think we would want to come out of the show is this inspiration for this random listener to say, man, I can make a difference. they don't have that Rolodex, right?
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them?
Just got to show up, man. Like I said, if you don't show up, people can't find you, right? So my Rolodex is all filled with people that found me because I just kept showing up authentically, like whether it be online or at somebody else's event, right? Like I go to, I'll go to, I don't want to say some names because some of these guys, right. I don't want anybody to go to their events. But, there's an event going on in your city, or there's a conference, or there's, get around other people that like doing the things that you like and get as close as you can to the stage. That's what I always suggest, right? Pay the extra money to get that front row seat, right? You're like, I can't do the VIP. Like, do the VIP, because what you don't want when you go to an event is it's cool to network and meet some people, but most of the people in the back of the audience are lost and broken too, just like you, right? Mm-hmm. So they can't really help you. They can comfort you, right? But they can't really help you. The people that can help you are the ones up in the front. They're the ones that are on the stage. So you got to do what you got to do to get up there, right? But just showing up authentically, serving people as often as humanly possible. And the Rolodex that I've built now, it's all people that are like-hearted as me, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people I don't know that are doing big things, but the ones that I do know found me because our vibe aligned, and I put that vibe out there over and over every day, all the time, just seeking to serve. The way I kind of look at it is, again, referring to the most impactful human of all time. But I think about what Jesus had to do walking city to city and doing all these things, just get an audience of like 30 people, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it's 2024. You and I are in an air-conditioned building with incredible microphones and great sounds and images and all this stuff. And we can reach thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And they don't even know whether we're wearing pants or not.
Right. We are.
What a time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what a time to be alive. It's so much easier now than it was back then to get an audience. And so I would say anybody listening to this, just show up as you are. Don't try to be anyone else, because that won't work. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and you will start to stack a Rolodex of people that are like-hearted. And then when it comes to time for you to make a move or create something, they'll be ready to serve you because you've already been serving them for years and years. I mean, Grant showed up at my last two events. Grant Cardone flew in on his private jet, probably spent $50,000 in fuel just to show up because I've been supporting him since 1999.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome. That's like a top-down type of approach, I guess I would relate it to.
Yeah, no doubt.
A man that's got a lot of success is going to come back and show you support now.
Yeah, I asked him after he showed up at the first one. I flew down to his office. I'm like, dude, why were you at my thing in Lexington, Kentucky? Because he just sent me a message in the morning like, I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. I'm like, what? So I'm like, why did you do that? And he said, there's probably 3 people on earth that I would do this for, and you're one of them. And he said, no one would show up for me. Back when I was hustling, doing my thing, I would ask for favors. Like, no one would ever show up for me. No one would ever do anything like this for me. He goes, so there's something in me doing this for you that heals that in me.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
And
now how amazing is that to hear?
Oh, incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, incredible, man. He's been really, really good to me.
Do you think that God has brought you to the people, or God has brought the people to you? Let's talk a minute about sex. Sex is part of life. It's beautiful, and it's essential to living a great life. Enter my friends at Shameless Care, who have created something cool for your personal health care. Shameless Care offers a variety of products you may be interested in. ED treatments, STI treatments, STD testing. So how does it work? Well, that's the easy part. You go to shamelesscare.com, you choose the product you're interested in, you complete an online questionnaire, which is reviewed by a medical doctor, by the way. Pay for the product, and in a couple of days, discreet packaging arrives right to your doorstep. Their customer service is second to none. They're always responsive, and they care. Listen, Ashley's the best. Tell her I said hello. They're a small business ran by people like you and me, and they're incredible. And the best part? We can save you some money. Click on the link in the show notes. Use the code JUDE at checkout. It's JUDE. And save $30 on your first purchase. That's not bad, huh? Visit our website to learn more. Shamelesscare.com. And don't forget the promo code JUDE.
I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's both. Our relationships, in my experience, sometimes we're called to serve, and other times we're called to be served. Mm-hmm. And we have to be open to both. You know, I know a lot of people that will do anything for anyone, but they'll never let anybody do anything for them.
Yeah.
And that's a recipe for, you'll exhaust all of your energy. You'll burn out, right? When you're serving everyone and not letting anyone serve you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that there's some people that God's like, yo, I need you to lead this person. And then there's other times he's like, hey, just follow this guy.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, man.
Good point. Let's move on to one other thing. Again, I want to be respectful of time. Let's talk about your book coming out. You've got a book coming out.
I do, man.
Yeah, let's talk about it. What is it?
It's called The Legacy Titles, 12 Proven Principles to Grow Your Business 800%.
Yeah.
And I wrote it in a parable style. So it's a story of a guy named Alfred. And Alfred his grandfather passes away. And you can go to there it is right there. Look at there. His grandfather passes away. And when his grandfather passes away, he leaves him a chest that has 12 old car titles in it. And the car titles, each one has a principle on it. And the story is Alfred applies these principles one at a time over a period of 5 years in his dealership and grows it 800%.
So when's it coming out?
Super Bowl Sunday, February 11th.
Oh, so it's right around the corner.
Yeah. It's ready. I just ordered 1,500 books myself last week that are being shipped to Las Vegas because that NADA event that I mentioned earlier, big automotive event, is happening again in Vegas. So we're going to have 1,500 copies there that we're going to be handing out to all of our dealers.
You're going to need more than 1,500 copies, I bet.
That is my guess, but 1,500 copies is 50 cases, and we have to get them, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Logistics still exist.
Logistics still exist. That's right. So we're gonna do 1,500, and then there's also a QR code that we'll have there. And so once we're out of the 1,500, if anybody wants a copy, they can scan the QR code and grab it.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
There was a former leader in where I used to work that talked a lot in parables. Mm-hmm. And he's a big leadership guy, big visionary guy,
right? Which
is tough in state government and tough for law enforcement agencies.
Sure,
it's like moving frozen glaciers, frozen peanut butter. You just can't move it. And the parables used to drive me nuts because I wanted somebody to say this cup is blue,
right,
and not challenge me philosophically to think about what the color of the cup might actually be, or to think why it's important for me to develop that. It would drive me nuts. I was like, God, I hate those.
Sure.
The stories, right? But then as you progress and hopefully you get to a point where you're like, oh, that's why he's challenging me in these fables and the parables and all these storytelling things, because there's so many great lessons. I mean, the world's been created on those things.
No doubt.
Anyway, it took me a long time to really buy into that.
Yeah.
So it'd be exciting to read the book to figure out.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think you'll enjoy it. It's entertaining. I believe in edutainment. Let's have fun while we're learning.
Yeah.
Right. Practical application principles. I'm with you. I love practical application principles. Show me, tell me how to do it. Show me how to do it, and exactly what it is. I think this book does that. It's very practical application. It's just told in a story form so that it can be digested
Back to building those relationships, right? I mean, people want to relate to a person.
Right.
They want to relate to that story.
Yeah.
Not so much the cup is.
And if you look back, my guess is if you look back in your life, you know, if I were to say, you know, David, what's one lesson you learned when you were in high school, right? My guess is you would share a story.
It'd be a story. That's right.
You wouldn't say document 14.574
conjugated verb.
Yeah, right. It'd be a story of how a teacher impacted or whatever, how they delivered or the experience. We remember the stories,
the feelings, sensations, etc.
Yeah, there's much more to it.
I know it probably took you 20 years to write the book, but how long did it take you to write the book? Is this your first book, by the way?
Well, I wrote a book called The Morning Five Simple Steps to an Extraordinary Life. It's just an ebook, super short, right? It's a 60-minute Audible. Like, it's a super short book. This is the first real book. This book is 200 pages. Like, it's a real book. And it took me 5 years to get to a point where I understood how I was going to deliver the book. And then once I realized how I was going to deliver the book, I wrote it in 45 days.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah. But it took me 5 years. Like, I had it outlined. I had the principles. Right. I would rework this. I would, let's do it this way. I'd put it off to the side. I'd bring it back. Did that for 5 years. And then finally it hit me in October. I was like, oh, parable style. That's how I'm going to do it. And then 45 days it was written and off to the editors.
You did it in all your spare time.
18 minutes a day.
18 minutes a day.
Yeah. So Jesse Itzler, I don't know if you know Jesse Itzler.
The name sounds familiar.
His wife is Sarah Blakely, who invented Spanx.
Okay.
And so she's a billionaire on the Spanx side. He's a billionaire because he had a jet company. He actually started off as a DJ. Then he was making jingles for like the NBA. Then he started a jet company and then he sold his jet company. So he's a billionaire. She's a billionaire. Together, they do some pretty amazing things. He speaks all over the place. But Jesse Itzler, on one of his Instagram videos, he said, did you know that if you do any skill, anything that you're trying to learn, learning a new language, playing basketball, whatever it is, 18 minutes a day, every day for 365 days, you'll be better than 95% of the population at whatever that skill is. It's not about doing multiple hours, 3 days a week. There's a compound effect that comes with daily activity. So 18 minutes a day. So that's always stuck with me. So whenever I want to learn something new, I find 18 minutes a day. Or if I want to create something, 18 minutes a day, because that's easy to bite, right? We all have 18 minutes a day. Right. And then it's just a matter of being disciplined about it every single day. So once I figured out the parable thing, I'm like, okay, I'm writing this thing. I will write 18 minutes a day until it's done. And I did that, and it took 45 days.
And you're done.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's been the ridiculously hard part is after you write the book, but figuring out the marketing strategy and getting it printed and edited and launched and all that. Cause that part's not fun.
Yeah. That's when everything starts. It's not the book.
That's right. That's right.
Where will people find this book at?
TheLegacyTitles.com, GlennLundy.com, GlennLundy.com/legacy titles. They'll be able to get it. Just go to GlennLundy.com. That's the easiest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to it, man. We're going to put in our orders.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
It'll be awesome. What else we need to talk about, man? It's going to be good. I really look forward to reading it.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about you and from you.
Yeah, thank you.
What else we need to talk about? What other lessons we need to get out here for success and
we just need to talk about what moves you're going to make to serve more people, man.
Yeah, I got to figure that out.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, man?
I always say, if you ain't hustling, you ain't eating.
Right.
And so I can relate to some of that, and I'll share too that I struggle with what am I going to do and where am I at, and
sure,
what's my purpose and what am I doing, and so. I had my previous career of law enforcement, and now I do a lot of criminal defense work.
Right.
And so my joke is I move from one side of the courtroom to the other.
Sure.
My eyes have been opened, jaw-dropping stuff, just amazing. And I haven't figured that answer out, and I struggle with it. And Amanda will tell you I struggle with it, that what am I doing? How am I doing this right? Because I don't know that what I'm doing is where I need to be. And I don't know exactly what that answer is, right? Yeah. So I'm not trying to say I'm waiting on something. I don't know. But I'm recognizing the fact that there's a bigger picture, man. There's something bigger that's waiting on you. You just need to do it.
So let's do this real quick. What's the biggest lesson you learned in 2023?
Biggest lesson I learned in 2023 was probably to quit pushing so hard.
Okay. Tell me more.
Yeah. So it's been push, sell.
Okay.
grow, and probably move too fast without enough knowledge of how to keep a revenue stream alive or whatever else, right? There's not enough. I didn't have enough input into, you got to have, this revenue stream has to be enough to facilitate growth and to keep it.
Sure.
Or otherwise you got to find some other revenue streams to help you accomplish that. So probably the biggest lesson for 2023 was not recognizing you got to have some of these other things over here too to keep going. I put all my eggs in one basket for them.
Yeah.
Lack of a better term. Right. And so we
totally get it.
We had some huge growth, freaking incredible growth that I'm so proud of.
Right.
I mean, 60, 70, 100% growth. I can't say I did 800%, but huge growth year after year.
Sure.
And I got locked into that vision like, hey, that's still coming. There's no reason this will slow down.
Right.
And then mid-year, you're like, shit. Uh-oh.
Sure.
Not only it slowed down, buddy, the brakes hit, and now you got to figure it out. So yeah, it was a good gut punch to say, all right, man, that's your lesson is you knew this, but you failed to explore it.
Yeah. Volume solves everything, right? So we have to push, like you said. The lesson might not be that we don't need to push. The lesson might be that we need to remember that we have to act like we're day one.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Right. I've ran through that with my business as well. Like you just kind of reach a point and you're like, oh yeah, we're good. Everything's rocking and rolling, but you're not continuing to fill the pipeline.
Yeah.
So then you lose a client or you lose 2 clients, or you lose 3 clients. And then you're like, oh wait, we're not as good as we thought we were. Right. Because we weren't filling the pipeline. But then when we look back, we go, man, when we first started this thing, we were bootstrapping. Golly, look at the work we used to put in to try to fill this pipeline. Yeah. And now I'm like, not doing that work anymore. And so it's interesting. What else did you learn in 2023?
Patience.
Okay.
That's still difficult for me. You want quick gratification and quick results, and they don't always come that way.
Sure.
And so that was hard, right? And you reach a point where in our office we would talk about, or I would say, we had some real troubles. And it wasn't if the boat was going to hit the shore. The boat's on the ground. The boat is going to hit the lighthouse, and we got to figure out how to do some different things. And so, the old saying, once you're thirsty, it's too late.
Right. Well,
that's kind of where we got to. Is like, man, that tide ain't coming in for another 12 hours or something like that. So you better figure out how to keep the boat afloat and then, move on. I don't mean to be talking in stories like that, but no, that's where I was. And I thought, well, you know what? You can't create that today. You want it, you need it. There's some real troubles happening, right? Because we had employees and all those things that you got to worry about, like you said at the beginning of the show. I was like, all right, then let's make a move here to change what we're promoting and what we're marketing and what we're doing with our own brand. And now you got to have patience to climb that second mountain, like you were saying a second ago. So, this podcast was part of it. It doesn't necessarily connect to the main business, but it's for us saying there's an opportunity for us in this show to talk to people and to connect with people and to do something with it. And I have a voice and I can talk. So let's figure out how to talk to people. And so it's just that patience of trying to build it. And that's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
I totally get it, man.
Yeah.
I was laying in bed with my wife last year and I said, honey, all I know how to do is sprint.
Yeah.
In high school, I was a sprinter.
Yep.
In college, I did triple jump and I did some sprinting. In auto industry, it was always a sprint. It was a race, 30 days at a time. One day, like, let's go. Right? Constant sprinting. I said, but the best companies were built over time. I wish I had more of a mindset of a marathon runner.
Right.
Which is we still run fast, but we understand how to run far. Right?
Right.
Like if you look at the top marathon runner, he ran it in two hours, bro.
Yeah.
He's still running fast, right? But he figured out how to run far.
Yeah.
And so my wife said, there's only one way you can change that, right? I said, what's that? She goes, you got to run a marathon.
Yeah.
I said, you go freaking run a marathon. What the heck are you talking about? But she was right.
Yeah, she's right.
And so I did train. I didn't run. I was supposed to run Boston in October. But I did train all the way up to 20 miles. I went from never running to running 20 miles. And I learned a lot about how patience mixed with urgency.
Yeah.
Right. But having a long-term plan per se, but being willing to be flexible to things that can happen.
Yeah.
Is the only way you get that long-term effect. You know,
I felt like I completely relate to the marathon versus sprint. I looked at my previous career that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marathon.
Right.
I'm going to be here 20, 25 years, whatever it was. It's a marathon. So I don't have to have it today. I connect a whole lot to that ideology. And I feel like I bring it in, and we have data, and I can show you some of it later. You know, we have data where we're tracking the marathon of our company, and we want to see this growth over time, and we have seen it.
Sure.
It's always going to have peaks and valleys, right? But we do have it. Where I got off track was the need to sprint at certain times during that marathon, or to speed up this next mile, this next little piece. And that's been really tough to manage, right? Because sometimes you're not going to run as fast that half mile as you did the previous one, or whatever the comparison is. You know? And so that was really tough. How would I translate that literally? I've still got to make payroll. I'm good for the marathon.
Sure.
We'll marathon this thing for the next however long we decide to work.
Right.
Next 10 years, whatever. But I've got to have payroll today. So even though I'm in the marathon mindset, at least I thought I was.
Right.
My gosh, man, those little sprints was what was killing me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I push and drive on that sprint. And so I maybe where we're going with this is I didn't have the proper mix of the marathon mindset with the ability to run a quick mile here if I need to.
Yeah. It's like, how do we run fast and far?
Fast and far.
Fast and far. So beautiful. So there's some good lessons. So now let's look forward into 2024.
Yeah.
Where are we at on this? Because you're now going to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So what do you want?
For life or for what?
Yeah. What do you want?
I think I'm chasing that success. I think I ask myself that all the time to say, how do you define success? Can you be successful? Can a person achieve success? And I like what you said, and I would agree with that. Success is measured differently. There can be different versions of success that we would look at.
Sure.
So I think I can achieve success. And I think that's what I'm chasing, is that ability to say, you did it, and you did it right, and you did it good. And I think we do. And we talk about that here at the office all the time. You got it. You're doing it.
Right.
Just keep going. But there's some drive inside of you to say, am I doing it right?
For sure.
Can I do it better? Should I have been doing something different? Could I have been a lot more successful? So maybe it's to get to your question. Your question is what I want for 2024. So it's to chase that success, that legacy type success, right?
Cool.
What can I do to improve the life of my daughter? And now not so much her, but my grandkids. And that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess it would I lost my train of thought there. What I was going to say.
What do you want?
Yeah, it's that success. It's that knowing that I'm doing it. I've got it. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Those type of things.
What else do you want?
What
do you want? What do you want? What do you want? You want a car? You want a house? You want a boat? You want time with your family? You want health? What do you want?
Yeah,
let's get there. You can turn the thing off if you want. Well, what do you want?
I'm not responsible for the 511 piece. We're going to keep on time for 510. So if we got to turn it off, we'll turn it off. Is it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a few minutes.
Yeah. Not knowing what you're asking me, so I'd say a better financial freedom.
Okay.
To feel comfortable through my.
What does that look like?
I don't know what it looks like. It looks like the ability to be comfortable living. The reason I can't answer it, I don't think, is because I made bad decisions as a college kid to get credit cards.
Yeah, sure.
And I have fought that my whole life, not continuous balances, but because I did during my youth, I could never get ahead. I could never figure those things out.
Sure.
And so that's been my biggest talking point to my daughter was, you got to have them. You got to establish your credit and you got to do it. But for the love of all things, don't do what your dad did and just spend it like you have it, because you don't, and you got to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And I still struggle with those decisions. We're financially okay.
Sure.
We did some great things. We renovated a property, ran it as a successful Airbnb, and our business was there for a couple of years, just sold it. And so we're able to pay some things off and to relieve ourselves of some debt. And so we're just now, literally, Glenn, within the last week or two, starting to feel
little breath. Yeah.
Right. And it just simply drives you to say, well, what else can I do? And funny you brought up Grant. Cause I told Stacy when we got the check from closing, like, you know what Grant Cardone would tell me? What's that? You take this money and go buy 10 quadplexes or
Correct.
10 apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And then we have perpetual income and passive income and all this stuff coming.
Yeah.
And we weren't afraid we've never been risk takers, but we did it.
No, nice.
Yeah, and successful. So now we're like, let's do it again. It's like, no, let's get a little sigh of relief.
That's great.
Before we do that. So I think it would be some of that financial freedom, taking that stress off. Man, it's been a freaking sprint.
Yeah.
For 30, 40 years. And I'm tired of sprinting.
I get it. So I want to challenge you, and because we do have time constraints, because I could sit here with you for a while, we could do this. But here's what I just want to challenge you to do: choose to or not. I want to challenge you to write down 100 things that you want, and be real specific, right? Be real clear on 100 things that you want. Now, this is very, very, very difficult for most people.
Oh, I don't know if I can come up with 100, but
it's difficult for most people because if we look back, right? If we go back, for the most part, society has told us, be grateful for what you have. And when we were kids and say, I want that, what did our parents say? No, can't have that.
Yeah.
Right? We can smack your hand. Look with your eyes, not with your hands. Right? They taught us all these things to really suppress this desire to want.
Yeah.
I find, as I've talked with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, there's a lot of people that are chasing purpose. They don't understand what their purpose is, right? They feel like they don't know what their purpose is. And what I've come to learn is that's because we've squandered this idea of exploring what we really want. As soon as we start reaching for it, we limit ourselves, right? We go, oh, no, because of the pre-programming that we had.
Yeah.
Starting when we were 5 years old, when they said stand in line. Did you know Simon Says is not like a fun game? Simon Says is, if you do anything without me telling you to do it, you're out. And they start teaching you that when you're 5.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
You're like, and you get a question right. Do you remember when you got a question right? And they said, oh, but you didn't do it the right way, so it's wrong.
Right.
You didn't show the math, so it's wrong. You're like, what are you talking about, dude? I got the answer. But you didn't do it my way.
Yeah.
Right? But I want to do it this way. You don't get what you want. Life's not fair. We've been told all these lies.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And so I want to challenge you to write down 100 things that you want. And you're going to find it might take you days. It might take you weeks.
Yeah.
But there's some things that will happen for you mentally, some unlocks. You'll start to break through and see some of the beliefs and the limiting beliefs that are keeping you from the clarity that I know you so seek.
Yeah.
Then from there, I'm going to challenge you to go one further. So 100 things that I want. Once you've completed that exercise, then the big question for you is, what do you want to create? So we are all creators, right? We've been creating. Every thought is a creation. Every word is creation. We are creation machines. We create our reality. We create whether something's good or something's bad, whether something brings us joy or brings us terror or fear. Like, we are creation machines. And so the question is, what do you want to create? Not in a year, not in 5 years, not with any timeline. Like, what do you want to create? I asked myself that question after I quit. I said, what do I want to create? I said, well, I want to create, and what time is it?
It's about 15 till.
Okay. I'll show you this real quick and then I'll get out of here. Because this is your deal and I'm over here preaching.
I love it, man. Preach away.
So I said, what do I want to create? And I like to draw pictures because I'm a visual person. So this is basically looking at what I want my life to look like. Like, what do I want to create? What does my life look like? Now, I used to think, okay, I'm going to create a life around my business. But I shifted it and I said, I'm going to create a business around my life. It's a completely different deal, right?
Yeah.
And so in here, I have terrible pictures because I'm really not an artist. But like, this is my relationship with God and what I want it to look like. This is New York. This is Times Square.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a TV show called Two Doors Down, which talks about identity and so on and so forth. And that's us in Times Square, like in the thing, right? #1 rated TV show, podcast / in the world, 2 doors down, blah, blah, blah. It's all spelled out right there, right? This is New York Times bestselling author. Maybe it's this book. If it's not this book, it'll be a different one. Global distribution, 99 different languages, bringing people together, equipping them with the tools, etc., helping them understand their identity. So that's a picture of me doing like book signings.
Yeah.
I've got that there. And then here's 800% Club, biggest, most well-known, most impactful training and consulting company in the history of automotive. Big live events. That's what that is. That's a live event with a bunch of people right there, right? But it's like massive events, bringing people together, equipping them with the tools they need to succeed, inspiring them to be great. Most incredible speakers, world-class venues, et cetera, et cetera. This is my Johnny Carson style morning show.
Right.
I'd like to get out of just me by myself and get to a point where I could actually have a morning show, but have it Johnny Carson style and be able to make an impact. When people come on my show, I want it to change their life, right? Like when people used to go on Johnny Carson, if you could get 5 minutes on Johnny Carson, it changed everything for you.
It was the deal maker.
I want that kind of show where we can bring people on and change their life. So we've got that. That's me speaking on stages all around the world, right? #1 speaker in the world. Deliver powerful, consistent message on unlocking your full potential through identity. To God be the glory, et cetera, et cetera. This is me with my kids. As you can see, there's quite a few. Father, truly world-class, lead by example, intentional with my time, learn, grow, develop together, allow them in, guide strategically. And then this is my relationship with my wife, right?
Yeah.
So husband, truly the best in the world, honor my wife, empower my wife, encourage my wife, inspire my wife, love her relentlessly, pursue her tirelessly, and allow her to live joyous and full. So this is what I want to create. Now, I've had these drawn out for a few years now, and I now have them on canvases, and they're hanging in my office. When you come by my studio, you'll see them.
Yep.
They're hanging in my office, and I look at them every day. And I'll say that this right here, dude, I've created this. I've got that. I've got this. Like with the kids, it's great. I've done some of this.
Right.
I was voted #1 speaker in America last year. I didn't know that.
Congratulations.
It was a competition with 27,000 people. I won it. And so I spoke.
Awesome.
I spoke at 10X GrowthCon last year.
Nice.
Which was amazing. The show, we're working on it. Right. We're working on it. 800% Club. We're getting ready to release this book. We got a big strategy. We've now served like 180 dealers nationwide from just an idea 3 years ago. The book is now official, so this can come true, right? But it's like getting clear on what I want to create in all those different areas, but I don't know what I want to create until I know what I want.
Yeah.
So I have to do the exercise of like, what do I want? And break through that. And then it's like, okay, great. Now what do I want to create, with the understanding that every thought, every word, every action is it's creation. And we can create a life. We can create a business around our life. We do not have to do it the other way around, the way we were programmed to do. Yeah. We were programmed to go to the school, go do the job, do that till you're 65, retire, and then you could maybe live life afterwards. And in the little gaps between 5 p.m. and when you go to bed, right? It's like,
Right.
no, screw that. Let's figure out what we want life to look like. And then how do we fit the business into that? That's what we've done. And because of that, my business there's 2 hours a week that I have to be in front of a camera and in front of clients. It's 2 hours a week. I run my entire company off that. Now, there's a lot of research and travel and other things that I do behind the scenes, but I only have to be somewhere 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy, man.
And before I was in a job where I told you guys I never took a day off because I believed that my belief was I had to be there from 7 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So those are there's your homework.
I'll take it, man. I'll take the challenge. Listen, I can't thank you enough for being part of this and coming in and spending some time with us. It's been awesome, man. I hope we get to do it again.
We will definitely do it again. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, man. I'll see you soon.
See you.